Okay, so we did a little comparison of buying a Hellcat or buying a two-flat. So, of course, for me, I'm always going to pick the two-flat over the Hellcat, and there's obvious reasons why. I don't know what's holding you guys back. I wonder how bad it needs to get for folks to say, you know what, I need to do something that's going to improve my situation, right? So I use the Hellcat scenario because my buddy, his son bought a Hellcat. He told me, told me about it. And I said, man, he's going to end up taking it back, And he said, oh, I'm sure he's a young guy and he wants to have his Hellcat. But I found out that he did actually take it back a few months ago. And, they probably found out that it was really costing a lot of money. And I think this is the thing that people need to really understand and get back to the basics, because that will really make a difference if you think about things from a very basic standpoint. I see so many people on these TikToks and they're complaining about rent and their car notes, So I think people are doing things just because everybody else does it. They don't know what to do. So, but if you think about basics, then you'll get an idea of what you need to do, at least the direction you need to be going in, right? So I learned back in 2008 when there was a crisis, they called the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. So we were in a recession, we had high unemployment. A lot of people were out of work for a number of months, maybe 6 months to a year, some people even longer. And at that time, it was really tough and it happened very fast. A lot of people lost their jobs due to the mortgage crisis, all the foreclosures, banks, people lost their jobs, and they couldn't recover quickly. So all hell broke loose, right? People were foreclosed on their homes, couldn't pay rent. And then at that moment, it really hit me, and I said, wow, having a secure place to live is really important, because you never know what could happen. And people get away with living paycheck to paycheck when everything is going well, and you don't really feel it, right? You don't really get the feeling that something bad could happen and wipe you out because everything is going great, right? But then one bad thing could happen, and it happened again with the pandemic, right? A lot of people got laid off. We had a downturn, and it was short, but it wiped a lot of people out. So what I learned back then was that as long as you're working and you're trying to build, but you're not quite there, and you don't have enough reserves or money in the bank, you're still at risk, even though things may be going well and you might have a secure job, at least you might think it's secure, and you're covering bills. But if you don't have a substantial amount of money in the bank, you could possibly get wiped out. So I learned from that. And I think what's happening now is we're having a very long, drawn-out recession, and people are realizing that they weren't doing as well, or they aren't doing as well as they thought they were doing. So now I look at things a little bit differently, and I was kind of doing this when I was a lot younger, kind of got away from it, but now, like I said, back to the basics. So the question is, what are you going to do, right? So are you going to keep struggling to pay your rent, or will something wake you up and say, maybe I got to do something different?